Pixar's amazing Monsters, Inc., which turns 24 this November. The best animated movie of 2001. Sorry, original Shrek. And the movie that really cemented that Pixar were more than the Toy Story franchise alone. I love me some Bugs Life, sure, but I feel like Monsters, Inc. especially was the first movie to step out of the Toy Story shadow, if that makes sense. Plus, the first movie directed by now studio head Pete Docter, the guy who would go on to give us Up and Inside Out. It all started with the monsters in the closet, and boy did they come out guns a-blazing. This was also out at a time where my brain was starting to be more than just toddler mush that didn't retain anything. So I remember this one being a real big deal for me at the time. In fact, I think this is the film I saw first in cinemas. And this is some high quality stuff to be your first real exposure. Not to mention, it was everywhere. I mean, I think they even had their own cereal back at the time. But why was it such a big hit that forged its own identity from the other Pixar fare we'd gotten up to that point? Well, let's have a look. We begin with something that was becoming less common even in 2001, and that is actually an opening title sequence. Outside of the James Bond movies, we don't really see them to that degree anymore. But I absolutely love it. Its stylized aesthetic giving us quite the unique look from the get-go, and one of the few pieces of 2D animation we've actually ever gotten from Pixar when you think about it. It's very much a throwback to classic comedies with animated title sequences, namely the Pink Panther featuring... oh, the Pink Panther, of course. Flashy credits done and dusted, we then go straight into a scene that within minutes has given us the premise and the infrastructure of the world that we're talking about. And without knowing it, the villain and his motivation right there in the first scene. Set up perfectly as we think we're just watching a kid going to bed about to be terrorized by a monster. So immediately we have the starting concept. We're talking about the monsters that kids think are in the closet and under their beds. Technically we call them wardrobes here, but whatever. Both fears being represented in quick succession, which is also genuinely framed through a horror-informed execution to sell you these monsters' capacity to be frightening, whilst also being a nice balance that's actually watchable for children without scaring them. Pretty important considering the premise. Before the sheet is quite literally lifted and we switch into all-out slapstick. The twists and turns of this story begin right here, the slapstick itself being genuinely really solid too. And I mean really solid, as when you want an animated character to get hit or experience pain by landing or something, you really need to give them that sense of weight. Particularly in computer animation, as I see so many characters who feel like they're made of rubber. Like, you don't actually believe anything's actually just hurt them because there's no weight to them, nor the object that's actually hit them. Whilst Pixar made a lot of advancements with this film, I think an unsung quality is the slapstick comedy and the visceral execution of it. When Roz slams the metal blinds on Mike's fingers despite him being a walking green bull, you still wince at it because of the execution. Anyway, aside from the slapstick, we do get a really sharp setup for the world and story here.
Let in a draft?
It could let in a child.
Boom. A child.
From the reveal that this is a training exercise, to what the function of why monsters scare people.
Without Scream, we have no power.
It's a clever and hilarious premise that monsters scaring children is for something so benign and functional, and so it deserves the execution to match. In a minute of non-forced and well-executed exposition, you see, it's not always a bad thing, we know why monsters do what they do, how they get their powers, who the boss of it all is, and that they at least think that human children are deadly to them.
Yes, it's dangerous work, but it's a sacrifice I am willing to make.
A very important factor to this plot. We have all the world building we need to then meet our protagonists and where they fit in the bigger picture.
I need scarers like James P. Sullivan.
Get up, Sully!
And here they are, one of Pixar's most iconic double acts besides Buzz and Woody. Their relationship as both friends and co-workers again delivered seamlessly, this time through how they act together.
Twins! And a bunk bed!
Which, wherever you stand on it, Monsters University actually fleshed out the origins of very well in terms of why Mike has these exercises down that are ultimately why Sully is the top scarer.
I don't know, but it's been said I love scaring kids in bed.
Oh, and also the commercial that began Pixar's longest running joke.
We're working for a better tomorrow. Today.
I was on TV.
Mike's blind optimism on this just being featured at all, also endearing us to the character. And I think this is quite integral early on, as it allows space for his more negative and impatient qualities to his character as we go on through the movie. Like any personalities, there are different shades to him. He's about as three-dimensional as his body. Kind of appropriate that the other iconic green monster from 2001 also has layers, you know?
You get it! We both have layers.
And that's also a huge win on the exposition on that front as well, with the commercial basically reinforcing Monsters Inc.'s role in this world. Yet everyone remembers it for the gag at the end.
I'm telling you, Big Daddy, you're gonna be seeing this face on TV a lot more often.
And away we go on a classic everyday walk through a neighborhood sequence. Particularly in Pixar movies with elaborate worlds, right up to Elemental, it's become a bit of a trope to have main characters take a walk through that world's status quo and absolutely load them with quick gags too. But it's done especially here because, as Pete Docter admitted in interviews, monsters are a very broad concept, compared to something like Finding Nemo, where fish give you a very much pre-established canvas. I mean, think about it. They came up with monsters as a concept, completely disconnected from anything in the magic or fantasy genre, or indeed science fiction. It's quite impressive. Instead, they created this world of monsters that feels like it's completely its own thing. They're not aliens, and they're not mythical or magical either. If anything, Pixar low-key did a parallel world movie without any of the baggage. It's a multi-dimensional movie. And they spice it up with gags like the guy who sneezes his newspaper into flames, or the kids using one of their tongues as a jump rope seem like no-brainer ideas, but actually required a whole other dimension of imagination that other projects don't necessarily call for. And even more so at that time. Despite being a completely absurd world where a giant clucking monster coexists with everyone else,
Hey, Ted! Good morning!
you just don't question it. They give you enough of this is the logic of the world, for you to just buy it. It's something that a lot of these earlier Pixar movies did, with perhaps Cars being an exception. I do like that movie, but its world building is less successful in silencing those questions, you know? They shouldn't really matter, but I just wonder over the fact that you don't ask those kind of questions on Monstropolis. And that goes to show that maybe they did a better job there. Plus throwing in little details like this.
Where you going? What are
Mikey,
you
there's a
doing?
screen shortage. We're walking.
Walking?
Yep.
It's just one line, but it really helps plant those seeds of the energy shortage that ultimately informs why someone in charge of that energy would resort to more desperate measures later.
Hey, genius, you want to know why I bought the car? Huh?
Not really.
To drive it!
As we get to the factory itself, I've also come to appreciate as an adult just the dry humor in the workplace dialogue that they throw in there.
Buddy.
Hey, Marge. Hey, how was jury duty?
They know that the visuals are what present the more absurd elements, and keeping a lot of the personalities straight in the voice as if it was just a normal factory or workplace really helps sell the overarching idea, whilst being even more hilarious that way. Whilst even still giving us room for the zanier characters in there.
Make him lose his focus. Oh no, sorry.
Because the real win here is the personality of the characters, and not entirely on concept alone. No matter what world of Pixar you're in, they always present these characters with believable personalities, and the dialogue making time for these characters talking about everyday things really sells you on that.
Harryhausen's, but it's impossible to get a reservation there.
Not for Googly Bear.
Billy Crystal is also just a standout. As Mike, he emboldens this character with his own distinct voice and personality.
Wouldn't it be easier if it all just blew away?
And the animators absolutely match his energy in the visuals, much like the one everyone points to with Robin Williams as the genie. It really shows the benefit of getting that vocal performance beforehand, as then the animation can just accentuate that performance. And on the flip side, you can really tell when that's not been done so well. Famously, Billy Crystal was incredibly thankful to get this role after turning down Buzz Lightyear, which on both fronts absolutely worked out for the best, I think we can all agree. Billy Crystal as Buzz Lightyear just does not compute. Tell you what else was a pretty good call. Steve Buscemi as Randall.
It scares little kids and little monsters.
His voice just fits that slippery lizard character perfectly, and I kind of feel bad saying this, but I've also thought that the design kind of resembles Buscemi slightly too.
Gonna be doing some serious scaring, putting up some big numbers.
It's here we also get more of the idea that, whilst doing a completely functional job for this world, the scarers are also a lot like athletes. And yet we still haven't started making baseball cards for our power station workers? What are we doing?
Okay, people, Eastern Seaboard, we got scarers coming out!
But it is yet another creative angle to take the movie though, and we haven't even gotten to the damn doors and how they work yet.
Oh, they're so awesome.
And everything they introduce just fits so seamlessly that you just go, oh yeah, that makes sense. And of course, having that element to it was a big selling point for kids as well. That's kind of what Pixar's missing now. You look at Toy Story, Monsters, Inc., Incredibles, even Finding Nemo, and you have these world and characters that kids really want to get into. And there's room for stuff like that with Luca as well, but then Elio really felt like it had the potential to join that club with all of its alien characters, and yet that just didn't happen. There's a reason why Monsters, Inc. is still a world that captures imaginations and is still relevant today, and likewise why maybe newer Pixar concepts don't have that same appeal. It's here you see this fully rounded world with all these amazing ideas. Like, yes, the damn doors to the human world, somehow they even make those cool. Doors. Just the track system they run on, the red lighting meaning the door's active, the batteries being filled by the screams, it's also thoroughly thought out in the world building. In the set dressing, even every scarer having that assistant is another thing that makes sense when you see it, but they had to manually come up with that. It doesn't come naturally, per se.
Just get me another door!
Ah, the door, yes, door.
And of course, the door shredder. Gotta get that one established for later.
Got a dead door over here!
Not to mention the types of monsters and their different methods also being a thing that had to be thought through. Having a sandbox to play in that's this vast with a million different routes to go down, as fun as it sounds, I cannot emphasize enough what an achievement it was to be able to tell a story so conceptually cohesive within it, with its own set of logic and rules, such as this one.
2319! We have a 2319!
A number that would find itself imprinted onto a whole generation. And I know I've mentioned this several times over the channel, but 2319 is letters of the alphabet. It's WS, white sock.
Stand back. Careful.
Interesting as a trivia note, less interesting as a code suddenly. But hey, at least you could decipher it. They could have just had a world that forbids long-term contact with children and still have similar obstacles to Sully and Boo's relationship. But having the fact that the monsters are genuinely scared of children is also just a brilliant play on the more scared of you than you are of them expression that you'd often say for like spiders or something. And also low-key tackling how fear often falsely presents itself. And makes kids less scared of the monsters under their beds if they think they exist.
Not the CDA.
On all fronts, it's just firing all of the successful achievements. The monsters believing that a single touch could kill them and a sock on someone's back needs a full decontamination operation echoes some of the hysteria in our own world and the baseless ideas that fuel it. It's just, great commentary.
What a day.
As the scare floors shut down, we have a nice beat between Sully and Waternoose, their relationship also being key to later events. Likewise with lines like this.
This company's been in my family for 3 generations. I would do anything to keep it from going under.
Just like the opening scene, the exchange here fully informs us of why what ultimately happens, as well as speaking to these two characters' relationship to why the boss would speak so frankly. You get 2 things from their friendship here. Waternoose's motivation and Sully's trust in him.
I'll start out with the old Waternoose jump and growl. Now that's my boy.
It's very much a paternal relationship for Sully, so that trust absolutely makes sense. As we move towards the inciting incident, I again love that it stems from such a benign workplace drama.
And I'm sure you filed your paperwork correctly for once.
Of course, being delivered from perhaps the most impersonated Pixar character of all time as well. Completely unique, yet everyone knows a Roz of some sort. By the way, voiced by Pixar animator Bob Peterson, who also voices Mr. Ray and Doug. That's some talented range for an animator. Gotta love how the animation team were involved in the cast in ways like this as well. There's something so endearing about early Pixar stuff. Humble, yet also titans. But what seems like part of a now iconic recurring gag genuinely sends us into the main plot. Despite the amount of gags that come out of it, that Pixar writer's room is no joke. They're not just setting up gags for the sake of it, each one either serves the story, the world, or the characters.
I forgot about some paperwork. Mike was reminding me.
Of course, being the good friend he is, Sully goes off to do the paperwork and teach my 5-year-old self what the color puce is.
Oh, that's puce.
Just kidding, it goes through my eyes and then my brain misinterprets it.
Hello? There's a door here.
It's time to get that door open and let hijinks ensue.
Anybody scaring in here? Hello?
This scene being all the more impactful, having well established the perception of children in this world. And just having this huge and until now fearless beast cower in front of this tiny child is just a funny idea beyond anything else. And it was absolutely the right decision to get an actual child voice for this, rather than an adult impersonator. It does just come across as an actual human toddler just wandering into this movie. And the fact that they mostly speak gibberish has a nice sense of disconnect. Mostly gibberish, anyway. Whilst they still hadn't fully mastered it yet, you could also tell with this one that Pixar got a better hold on human characters by this point. Or at the very least, enough so to animate one toddler. And considering you're meant to be endeared by this character, they couldn't have her look ugly. Remember the baby they did in their first ever short? As Sully tries to pull her back, I also appreciate how well hidden Randall's plot is at this point. With the scare canisters that we later learn are actually one container, it does just look like he's trying to break that scare record we saw him obsessed with earlier.
Big numbers.
They really don't give the game away on that first viewing. Although, how does he sneeze here when he has no nose? Her door sent away, Sully does what any of us would do with a creature perceived to be the most dangerous thing ever, and takes it to a busy public place. That goes fine. And even before this, there's some gems to appreciate. Even just Mike's conversation with Celia also just padding out the fact that these characters have a full life that we've just walked into.
Oh, I was just thinking about the first time I laid eye on you.
Or at the very least, Mike does. As we learned in the scene before Boo, that's less the case for Sully.
I'm gonna head home and work out some more.
You know, there's more to life than scaring.
Just speaks even more volumes as he begins to deprioritize scaring once Boo's entered the picture. And also why Mike is more keen to get back to normal. Here we see Mike has a full life he's happy with, whilst Sully doesn't have a lot outside of the scare floor before Boo. Thinking about it, this is also an element to their characters that they underplay, which I actually really appreciate. They don't need a big sequence of Sully being unfulfilled or anything like that, you know? But that's totally a direction they could go with how they have structured the lives around these characters so far. It's a play piece they could have gone with in this sandbox, but they chose not to. And tactically, I think it was the right choice. Anyway.
Kid here! A human kid!
Quick shout out to the sushi chef being an octopus.
Let's get out of here!
And here's an interesting nugget of trivia. So in the same vein as Lilo and Stitch replacing its plane sequence, Pixar originally had Harryhausen's getting blown up. But just to give you an idea of the time frame here, you can probably guess. Monsters Inc. had its US release in November 2001. Ooh. They basically got less than 2 months to redo the sequence into the big sterilization bubble. But honestly, I think it works better. I guess it's leaning into science fiction now, but having a more alien approach to this police authoritative state, I think is more interesting than just, oh, they'll die in an explosion that we're familiar with. I think it just works for the best. Keeps the absurd alternate dimension world absurd and alternative. Cue news report predicting 2025.
Now is the time to panic!
Also, for some reason, Mike spraying himself in the eye is one of my core memories of this movie. Also, the sound he makes when he gets crushed into that little bin. And here we also get the setup foreshadowing for the movie's resolution. They really sell you on the connection between Boo's emotions and the electricity in the building. I also just forgot how unhinged the slapstick with Mike really is. The guy falls into a bin, has his mouth stuffed with books, and then a speaker lands on him. Like, why did they even think of that? From here, we have the beginnings of Sully and Boo's bond. It creeps up slowly from just an initial couple of shushes, and then the whole bedtime scene, you really see it. I also love this little detail of differences in pronouns Mike and Sully use here.
Why don't you find some place for it to sleep?
While I think of a plan!
It's the beginnings of the two falling out of alignment with each other, growing from this point right to when it's time for snow cones.
My chair is more comfortable anyway. What?
Sully finds himself assuming a parental role. It's kind of perfect that this is one of the first moments he has with that.
Do you think he's gonna come through the closet and scare you? Oh boy, how do I explain this?
You now have one of the monsters responsible for this conversation that every parent has to live with now on the receiving end of his good work. Again, it's just really clever, and again, quite understated writing. And it's just at the end of this sequence that you start to see some affection coming out as well.
You go sleep.
It's just in the character expression once she's asleep, but you can see that emotion in his face for the first time. From the slightest expression of this computer animated character. That's just Pixar at its finest, recreating emotions out of pixels.
Hey Mike, this might sound crazy, but I don't think that kid's dangerous.
As Sully suggests bringing Boo back to her door, it speaks a lot to Mike's character that against all of his doubts, Mike's still a good enough friend to ultimately follow Sully's plan.
Waltz right up to the factory, right? I can't believe we are waltzing right up to the factory.
Though his doubts do invite more foreshadowing disguised as a gag.
Loch Ness, Bigfoot, the abominable snowman. They all got one thing in common, pal. Banishment.
Along with one of the gags that just gets me every time.
Actually, that's my cousin sister's daughter, sir.
Partly for the line, partly in the disappointment in Mike's voice as he says it.
To bring an obscure relative to work day.
Not to mention watching it as an adult and realizing that his cousin's sister would also be his cousin. Hey there, thank you for making it to the halfway mark of this video. You know the drill at this point. Come subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you very much. On to more wholesome bonding with Sully and Boo.
Did she disappear? Did she turn invisible? I just have no idea.
This is where the dad vibes really start to come out. It's actually quite impressive that they have Sully go on the typical dad journey of realizing life's not all about work without Sully actually becoming a dad. And I'm sure that idea stems directly from Pete Docter's own journey as a parent. Particularly as he's on record that Riley from Inside Out is very much inspired by his own daughter. So he's definitely not afraid to pull on those influences. Same with Andrew Stanton talking about the relationship with Marlin and Nemo. Pretty much most of the Pixar cast have all sorts of fatherly connections in their storytelling.
What are you doing?
Mike, on the other hand, he still just wants to
Put that thing back where it came from, or so help me!
even if that means throwing her through any door.
Mike, this isn't Boo's door.
Boo.
From his perspective, he's happy to just take the easy solution as long as it's a solution. Valid, it's its own separate take, and the fact that he doesn't follow through and still goes with Sully's idea is again emblematic of his friendship. But before that, they have a close encounter with Randall in the cubicle.
You just get the machine up and running. I'll take care of the kid.
Conveniently informing our protagonist that Randall is actively after Boo, as well as our first hint that there's something more to it than just wanting to break the scare record.
They're dead.
Anyway,
Put that thing back where it came from, or so help me. So help me, and cut.
just some setup for Pixar's best blooper reel, which they annoyingly separated from the credits for the DVD release and never put it back.
Get that thing away from me, you guys. It's a work in progress. It's gonna get better.
Despite that bonus feature being unavailable on Disney+. Love that. Despite being at odds with each other, there's some genuinely great double act moments in the mid-section of the movie like this. After having the at-odds double act that ultimately comes together with Buzz and Woody, it's nice seeing a more in-sync pairing with this one, who then have their relationship challenged. Alas, Mike soon reminds us he's not really bothered about Boo.
This is perfect. She's gone.
Unfortunately for him, both Sully and the newspaper have other ideas.
Wazowski.
Which leads to another favorite Mike moment.
The scare floor will be
Painted? Empty.
I just love his panicked attempt at trying to follow along but not getting it. There's so many different flavors of comedy going on, which only gets demonstrated further in the next scene with Sully as well. This sequence has been memed to death, but has nonetheless not lost its comedic charm whatsoever. Clearly showing she's somewhere else, so the theater's not full of crying children. They then have the trouble of making the sequence look as brutal as possible for our entertainment. The cuts between the garbage being crushed and Sully's reaction is one of the all-time best animated comedy bits, not to mention the soundtrack being perfectly in sync with those shots. All done through physical comedy, so full props to the character animation team here. Meanwhile,
Wazowski looks like he's in trouble.
2319!
Poor guy. Back to Sully, and once again, the humor's doing more than just gags for gags, as it's reinforcing Sully's care for Boo.
I can still hear her little voice.
How many kids you got in this?
Even this kid biting into Mike's hand and is also in service to another plot point later, with Boo's sense of humor seemingly being very similar to mine. Other people's pain. Speaking of plot, we are truly into the sequence of revelations now. Kinda gets overlooked that this is also a corporate conspiracy movie.
You still think this is about that stupid scare record?
Right up until you chuckled like that.
With the odd dose of fat shaming.
Kid needs to take off a few pounds.
Followed by, unironically, one of the most screwed up, non-lethal movie contraptions. I say non-lethal so the Saw franchise can just be disregarded. But even still, crazy just to imagine, early Pixar conceptualized the idea of a child torture contraption. And they used it. What can I say? Pixar movies just don't make them like they used to.
Say hello to the Scream Extractor.
Hello.
Particularly when you see what it does to Fungus, and then imagining them using that on Boo and other children is sickening. I certainly felt sick watching it as a kid. I reckon Fungus feels pretty sick too. Look how pasty he is. Which just leaves the final reveal of this secret plot with a healthy dose of witty writing on the way.
All about how you enter the room. Mr. Waternoose!
And of course, in this really well-written movie, you just can't have one function of a scene. You need your central character to have a turning point moment in his arc as well. Whilst also really demonstrating firsthand why Sully's top dog of the factory. Weirdly, this is the first time we actually see Sully fully scaring somebody, with the factory floor scene leaving us on the other side of the door the whole time. It's interesting that they save it until this moment here, when Boo also sees this side of him for the first time. And it really does heighten the impact of the movie from her perspective.
Test it out on that sweet little girl. He is trying to kill us.
Giving us this scene where Mike is explaining everything to Waternoose, a big exposition, revelation that should be really finding solutions for the main plot, and yet it's shoved to the back like background noise to Sully reaching this key moment in his emotional arc instead. Being forced to look head on at the impact of what he's dedicated his whole life to. The thing his whole life and whole society is built around, which is essentially traumatizing children. We draw the line at torture, but we don't draw the line at traumatizing those little
Let's take care of the child.
Of course, it won't be that simple.
Sir, that's not her door.
It's yours.
I think as a kid, that moment left my jaw on the floor. That's just a great junior introduction to a meaty plot twist, isn't it? Because yes, as set up by earlier remarks, Waternoose would do anything for his family business, and it turns out that Randall's machine is that anything. Well set up and well revealed.
It's too late. We're banished, genius.
This is then also the breaking point in Mike and Sully's relationship. And just to point it out, when Mike pushes him down the hill and the abominable snowman interrupts him, Sully has that fist ready to go. Like he was setting up a proper punch in the moment. Mike Wazowski was about to lose his life on that snowy hill. That dude, his entire eye, every fist would be getting poked in the eye.
Or the agreeable snowman. I'm a nice guy. Snow cone?
Our John Ratzenberg character of the movie, and it's definitely one of my favorite characters, despite not being in the movie for all that long. Just having this laid-back, abominable snowman making his snow cones, bless him. I even feel bad when Mike uses his snow cones to throw at Sully.
You've ignored everything I've said, and now look where we are.
Look at the poor guy's face. Of course, the main thing happening in this scene is Mike and Sully very much on two different tracks.
Did you see the way she looked at me?
Sully rethinking his whole way of life and trying to get back to Boo, whilst Mike feels betrayed and disregarded by his best friend.
Sully, what about everything we ever worked for? Does that matter?
A line that goes even deeper after Monsters University. And whilst their clashing starts to wind down here as they talk it out more, you ultimately understand the actions of both characters. And you don't get that all the time in modern movies.
You be my guest, because you're on your own.
And another unsung quality of this scene is how human they get Mike's facial expressions here, despite him being a bull with one eye. The expressions are so believable that I forget I'm even looking at such a weird character design. And right up to Sully leaving without him, you can read the range of emotions he goes through. That's why Pixar was a pioneer in animation. Because they prioritized really good character animation first. The graphics then advanced, sure, but conveying character and emotion has always been Pixar's strength from the beginning. But also, yeah, the quality of the graphics in this fourth Pixar movie also really stepped up the game, as can be seen from the intensity of Sully sliding through the blizzards, hair physics and all. Sully's fur was obviously the big talking point at the time, stealing Blue Sky's thunder with Manny, with Ice Age coming out a year later. But here, they really outdid themselves. Animating that fur going through a blizzard, wind blowing up against him, flakes of snow sticking to him, this one sequence must have taken them a good chunk of time.
Go get him, Georgie.
Get wind! Look out! Coming through!
23-0!
Quite extreme, but I think we understand. I do love how unhinged some of the physical comedy in this movie is. Over to our villains now, and a detail I like is continuing to show that Waternoose has descended to this option because in his mind, he has to. He felt like he had to banish Sully, yet he still holds some twisted loyalty to him.
Sullivan got what he deserved.
Sullivan was twice the scarer you will ever be.
It's just something that adds dimensionality to this character, and you don't really think about it nowadays. But still, he is willing to suck the fear out of a child with a horrific torture machine. Not to worry, it's time for Sully's hero moment. Just love him casually tearing the machine off and throwing it at them, and then the next second,
Sorry, Boo.
on to the invisible Randall fight, and I've always wondered how Mike got back from the Himalayas so easily.
I was just mad, that's all. I needed some time to think.
I mean, he must have built his sled seconds after Sully left, and then gotten down there with less than half the force and weight of Sully. But whatever, we saw it can be done. I mean, they showed Mike as pretty resourceful in his college days in the next movie. So we'll let it go, because this is another great comedy set piece, which again still maintains the momentum of the storytelling.
I'm being attacked.
No, I'm not attacking you. I know, kid. He's too sensitive.
With friendship amended, it's into the final chase, and we have another great set piece of Celia and Mike having a spat, with Mike trying to explain while Sully's pulling them along. Again, just great compositing? Directing? Sure, we'll say compositing.
Michael, if you don't tell me what's going on right now...
Here's the truth.
It reminds me of chase sequences in Shrek, where he just picks everyone up around him and doesn't have time to stop. And it just keeps the momentum going if you keep the characters moving in this scene. I could see it being a writer's problem of they want to have this conversation, but they don't want to pause for it. But with that cleared up, it also allows Celia to have a hero moment in that climax too.
Randall Bob has just broken the all-time scare record.
And so, here we are, the jewel of this movie. It's the door sequence. I just remember being absolutely captivated when they first enter that giant space filled with all these individual doors moving. It's probably because they tried to capitalize on how well the ending of Toy Story 2 was with the airport reveal. And that's before we even get into them essentially dimension jumping between these doors as well. Just these initial visuals of the different tracks of doors overlapping as Mike and Sully go through it, it's still incredible to watch. The journey of even conceiving this sequence to storyboarding it to making it an animated reality is just unfathomable. It still stands as a huge feat in animation history. I don't think I've seen anything to this level of complexity in CG animation at this point. 24 years on, and it is still absolutely spectacular. Even Billy Crystal highlighted this scene as a standout to him and the moment he realized what could be done in this medium. Rather unbelievably, it's only now that Disney have actually gotten around to developing a ride based on it, which is baffling because this one scene may as well have been a backdoor pilot for Make Me a Ride, you know?
How are we supposed to get to it now?
Anyway, here's that accessible rendition of a dimension hopping sequence I was alluding to.
Right.
As well as being impressively complex, it's just a really fun sequence amongst other things.
Why couldn't we get banished here?
Between the island, Japan, and France, we got a cheeky bit of globe-trotting in there and some gravity hijinks. Until...
We lost him!
As they get into the door in the nick of time, it's quite interesting that the doors just completely de-exist when they hit the ground. It reminds me of the old Lego games where stuff would just collapse into a pile of bricks. You also feel the switch here now that Randall has Boo. We don't see the world between the closets Mike and Sully go through this time, and Sully is now much more focused and relentless in his movements and demeanor. The guy's just swinging from door to door like the Terminator, determined to get to Boo. It's the crescendo of his character journey, the tenacity in his pursuit to rescue her, making absolute sense for the character they've built here. Throwing caution to the wind as he swings in after her, which doesn't go entirely to plan. As we're about to wrap things up with Randall, what I like here as well is that this line suggests that it was absolutely personal for him.
You've been #1 for too long, Sullivan. Now your time is up.
Despite mocking Mike earlier about thinking this is still about that stupid scare record, this line pretty much confirms it very much was. Creating a machine that could outdo Sully as a scarer, even if it involved torturing children, at the end of the day, it all stems from Randall's jealousy and bitterness. Out of him and Waternoose, Randall, of course, comes across as the more self-apparent, straight-up villain, yet his motivation is clear and believable. I love it when you can have a proper villain with clear motives, as opposed to fake villains who are just misunderstood, or twist villains that ask for leaps in logic. Anyway, with a bit of colourful, baseball bat-oriented slapstick, Villain 1 is defeated.
She's not scared of you anymore.
Nice to give Boo that bit of closure as well, overcoming her monster. Not every movie manages to complete a non-verbal toddler's character arc, you know? Like, did Ice Age do it by giving the kid back? Did it learn anything?
Looks like you're out of a job.
And yes, the place he gets banished to is the caravan we saw in A Bug's Life with the Pizza Planet truck. They probably just had the scene available in near proximity. I love the idea that the Pizza Planet truck was originally just going to be hidden in A Bug's Life, but then reusing the same shot here cemented that it then needed to appear in almost every movie afterwards.
Get him all. Get that guy.
And away we go to this movie's literal final boss.
Wait, come back. He has a child.
With possibly the most satisfying way they could have tied this all up. But as we build to that, I love how intense just this chase with Sully and Waternoose is.
Sullivan, give me the child!
From Waternoose doing a kind of side scuttle against the wall to Sully bending a metal pipe to fix the door close, it just adds an intensity to the stakes and shows off that these monsters are monstrously powerful in places. And also making the most of this being a chase between two monsters, rather than just two men and a baby. Such a great monster design, it's great that we at least get this one sequence to actually see Waternoose be that monster, both physically and behaviorally. In fact, it's a full contrast from that collected paternal figure we saw at the start of the movie.
I'll kidnap 1,000 children before I let this company die.
The true colors come out, though set up from the start, all leading to many of us having our first taste of someone getting cancelled.
Let's watch my favorite part again.
Before I let this company die.
And looping us back to the first scene as well. Mwah. As if this movie needed any more creativity, it's just a more original and inventive way to defeat a villain. Through scandal, I guess. And let's not forget the final big twist in this tale.
Hello, boys.
Yes, they got Roz as an undercover agent in there, which is just kind of a perfect playoff to that grumpy receptionist character. But what starts as a funny payoff soon leads us into Pixar's obligatory "we need to crush your soul at some point" scene.
You mean I can't see her again?
The way it has to be.
And the real killer of this sequence is how they play into Boo not understanding what's happening. She's a toddler, so why should she? She just does what she would do, showing her best friend all her favorite toys. And yes, Jessie and Nemo included.
Nothing's coming out of your closet to scare you anymore, right?
Followed by perhaps the most heartbreaking expression of any Pixar character. Sully's one look as they hug strikes an emotion that speaks to all of us so viscerally. I can't really put my finger on it either. I guess it's that restraint of someone who wants to cry, but won't for the benefit of who they're with. And they managed to animate that feeling. This is one moment for me that should have just edged Monsters, Inc. over Shrek at the Oscars. That's just next level stuff, man. Through a blue, fluffy monster with purple spots as well, they give this character such incredible humanity. Topped all off with Boo opening the door and Sully being gone, it's just so sensitively played. I almost kind of want it to end there, but no, of course we have the new resolution to go through.
Hundreds of people will be out of work now. Oh, but hey, at least we had some laughs.
Forward 6 months, which makes you realize that the whole movie to this point took place in like 3 days. That's weird to think. With a resolution that both ties up this story perfectly and made the idea of a sequel so difficult that the next movie had to do a prequel story so that they can go back to scaring, and when they did it as a TV series, they had to play things with much less higher stakes. Yikes. Ah.
Hey, is this thing on? Hello, testing.
I mean, I'm sorry, if I wake up to a one-eyed green bull with a microphone by my head, I'm still filling those canisters with screams and cries for help. But sure, the kid laps up the microphone burp from this awful freak of nature.
Laughter is 10 times more powerful than scream had nothing to do with it.
Of course, probably for the best that they established there was a better way of doing things than traumatizing children to get their power. And it's a resolution very well established across this movie. It's just a very neat bow foreshadowed by Boo. Every layer of this story, right to the end, is just incredibly well thought out. Right up to these closing moments, we just leave the cherry on top.
Mike.
Sorry it took so long, pal. There was a lot of wood to go through.
Admittedly, impressive that Mike was able to rebuild a completely shredded door, but we'll go with it. At the very least, it's a fantastic final testament to his friendship with Sully. Even after the journey their relationship went through, this is how far he'd go for his best friend. Like the splinter Sully kept on his clipboard being the final piece, this emotional climax fits perfectly. And that was Pixar's amazing Monsters, Inc. Again, I would rave about the hilarious fake bloopers and musical sequence, but they separated them from the credits to display them as a bonus feature for home video, and then neglected to put them back on Disney+. You can find them still on YouTube, but I'm just confused why they can't put them into the Extras tab on Disney Plus or something. Just another weird thing they haven't put on the service. But that's another story, and that's 20 years later. For me, this is just up there as one of Pixar's best, and the one that really showed they could do a movie wildly differently to Toy Story. I mean, admittedly, they managed to make another movie about a hidden world of creatures that rely on children, which is interesting. Particularly as Pete Docter would then do the same again in Inside Out. But beyond that, no offense to A Bug's Life, this was their first major win outside of the Toy Story movies, and for good reason. It is an all-time classic with a world and concept that's entirely its own. I don't even think I've seen anything close or similar to this idea. It is perhaps one of the most original ideas for a world in cinema, yet they still managed to create an entirely cohesive and now classic story within it. And that is the true genius of the amazing Monsters, Inc. A movie I was incredibly fortunate to have being my first movie in cinemas, I think, along with a lot of the Pixar initial rollout. And yet even as an adult, I never get bored revisiting it, learning all the more mundane jokes and gags hidden in there now that I am an adult and can perceive the world a little better. For now though, I'd best finally end things off there. My name's been Daz. Thank you very much for reaching the end of this episode. Do tell me your thoughts on Monsters, Inc. Did you see it as a kid? Have you got any particular memories attached to this movie or anything like that? I'd love to hear all of your thoughts and more, maybe some side analyses as well. I've certainly spoken about it a few times, whether it's the scene from Monsters University, a dedicated video to one of the other scenes in this movie, or just rambling about it in general over the years. But for now, let's put a pin in it. And I shall see you all in a little bit. Cheerio!